Jimin's high fever leaves the hotel room in chaos. Only Jungkook stays awake all night, doing the unimaginable as the rest of the world sleeps. What happened between them changes everything. The icy silence of the hotel room shattered with a sound that would haunt Jungkook for years. "Hayoung, I can't breathe." Sweat soaked through Jimin's hair and the bedsheets as his body trembled beneath the thin, starched blanket. The digital clock on the bedside table blinked 2:48 a.m., mocking how late it was, how far away help seemed, how utterly alone they were in the sterile, moonlit room. Jungkook bolted upright, heart pounding, the air thick with a suffocating heat. He rushed to Jimin, bedside, every instinct screaming that something was dangerously wrong. The others, Yoongi, Namjoon, Taehyung, slept in the adjoining rooms, separated by heavy doors and the exhaustion of tour life. Only Jungkook had heard Jimin's faint, broken cry, as fragile as paper in a storm. He knelt beside Jimin, searching his face for any sign of relief, but the only thing he saw was panic. Jimin's lips were dry and cracked, his skin burning hot. Jungkook grabbed a cold towel from the bathroom and pressed it gently to Jimin's forehead. "You're burning up, Hayoung. I need you to stay with me, okay?" Jimin's hand trembled as he reached for Jungkook's wrist, gripping it like a lifeline. "Don't leave," he whispered, the words almost lost in the soft whir of the hotel's air conditioner. Jungkook didn't hesitate. He poured a glass of water and lifted Jimin's head, coaxing him to drink even as tears pricked at his own eyes. For hours, endless, aching hours, he rotated cold towels, kept Jimin hydrated, and whispered encouragement every time his Hayoung's breathing faltered. He texted the manager, begged for a doctor, but in the dead of night there was only so much he could do. As the fever raged on, Jimin's delirium surfaced, fragments of old memories, half-finished sentences about home, about being scared, about disappointing someone he loved. Jungkook listened to it all, his voice steady even when his hands shook. "You're not alone, I'm right here, I'm not leaving." He sang quietly at first, then louder as Jimin's body twisted in discomfort. Songs they both knew, songs about hope, about making it through the darkness. He wiped Jimin's face, cooled his burning hands, and forced himself to stay awake every time exhaustion threatened to pull him under. In those hours, 1,000 unspoken things passed between them. Jimin's fear of not being enough, Jungkook's guilt for not noticing sooner, the burden of their fame pressing down on both like a second fever. The air in the room grew heavy with secrets neither dared speak in daylight. When the first pale rays of dawn slipped past the blackout curtains, Jimin's fever finally broke. He lay limp, his breath shallow but steady, clinging to Jungkook's hand with the last of his strength. Jungkook slumped against the wall, dizzy from worry and sleep deprivation, but refused to let go. Jimin's eyelids fluttered. "You didn't sleep at all, did you?" Jungkook shook his head, a tired smile breaking through. "You'd have done the same for me." Jimin laughed, a cracked, raw sound that was somehow beautiful. "I'd do more." His eyes filled with tears, but this time they were grateful. The rest of the group found them like that as the hotel morning crept in. Jungkook on the floor, Jimin half awake, the room scented with stale fever and the bittersweet relief of survival. Namjoon stared, understanding something unspoken had changed. Yoongi just squeezed Jungkook's shoulder, no words needed. Taehyung tried to joke but choked up halfway through. That day nothing was quite the same. Jimin watched Jungkook differently, every gesture laced with a quiet trust. Jungkook, still haunted by the image of Jimin's feverish face, grew more protective, more gentle. Between them, a new kind of bond had formed, one built not on stage lights or shared dreams, but on surviving the dark, endless hours when only love could keep the fever at bay. In the echo of that sleepless night, both would remember. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is simply refuse to leave. The day after the feverish ordeal, silence became a constant shadow between Jimin and Jungkook, but it was the kind that crackled with tension instead of comfort. The group's schedule was relentless as always, photo shoots, interviews, rehearsals, But beneath every routine, something had shifted. Jimin tried to hide his lingering weakness, masking exhaustion with a smile that trembled at the corners, but Jungkook saw through every layer. His concern was as obvious as a bruise. He hovered, fetched water, nudged food closer, shot glares at anyone who seemed to notice how pale Jimin was. It was during lunch that the first spark of conflict erupted. Yoongi, already grumpy from the early morning, nudged Jimin. "You look like hell. Did you even sleep, or is this some new diet you're on?" Jimin's chopsticks froze mid-air. Jungkook's hand tightened into a fist under the table. Taehyung snorted, trying to defuse. "Hayoung was burning up last night. It's a miracle we're not all sick. Thanks for the warning, by the way." Jimin's cheeks reddened, shame prickling over his skin. "I'm fine, really." "No, you're not," Jungkook said, voice sharper than he meant. "You almost passed out in the elevator. You can barely keep your eyes open now." Jimin's eyes flashed. "Don't start, you're not my nurse. I said I'm fine." Yoongi looked between them, curiosity turning to suspicion. "What happened? Did something go down last night?" Namjoon, always the peacemaker, tried to step in. "Let's not." But Jungkook wouldn't let it go. He had a fever of 40 degrees. He was delirious. "If I hadn't stayed." Jimin slammed his chopsticks down, the clatter echoing off the walls. "Do you want a medal for that, Jungkook? You want everyone to know what a hero you are?" Taehyung's eyes widened, a mix of awe and alarm. "Whoa, guys, chill." "I didn't do it for credit," Jungkook fired back. "I did it because I care, because you'd never ask for help even if you were dying." Jimin's lips curled into a bitter smile. "You think you know everything about me. You think just because you stayed up, you can act like you own me." Yoongi cut in, tone low and dangerous. "Both of you, enough. If someone finds out, if fans hear even a rumor about this, we're all screwed. Can you at least pretend to get along?" Namjoon added, "We need unity, not this. We're not 12. A heavy silence hung in the air. Jimin blinked rapidly, pushing his tray away, his appetite gone. Jungkook stared at him, chest heaving with all the things he wanted to say and couldn't. Later, in the quiet of the hotel room, Jungkook cornered Jimin before he could escape into the bathroom. The tension was thick, crackling like static between their bodies. "Why do you always do this?" Jungkook whispered, frustration and fear tangled together. "Why do you act like you have to go through everything alone?" Jimin's voice trembled. "Because it's easier than asking for help and being disappointed. Because the last time I let someone take care of me, they left." Jungkook's anger faltered, replaced by something raw and broken. "I'm not leaving, even if you hate me for it." Jimin's facade shattered for just a moment, eyes shining with something unspoken, pain, gratitude, terror. "You promise?" Jungkook nodded, reaching out and brushing Jimin's hair back from his forehead. "Yeah, I promise. Even if you scream at me, even if you push me away, I'm not going anywhere." Jimin let out a shaky laugh, half sob, half surrender. "You're such an idiot, you know that." Jungkook grinned, relief flooding him for the first time all day. "Yeah, but I'm your idiot." From the hallway, voices echoed, managers arguing with staff, the world pressing in on their private moment. But for now, in the safety of the dim hotel room, it was just the two of them, every wall down, every scar exposed. Jimin leaned against Jungkook's shoulder, exhaustion winning at last. "Don't tell the others." Jungkook wrapped an arm around him, fierce and protective. "Let them think what they want. I only care what you think." Jimin closed his eyes, trusting for once that when morning came, Jungkook would still be there. Jimin had barely slept, his body still fighting off the remnants of the fever, but the world didn't care. By noon, their manager was pounding at the door, his tone clipped and impatient as he demanded they get ready for the interview. Jungkook watched Jimin struggle to sit up, eyes bloodshot, hands trembling slightly. The memory of last night's panic was fresh in both their minds, every detail sharp and painful. Jungkook hovered near the window, torn between anger and helplessness. His jaw clenched tight as the manager barked orders from the hall. Taehyung was the first to notice the tension as they filed into the black van. "You two look like you saw a ghost," he joked, but the attempt at humor bounced off the heavy air. Jimin glared at the city lights blurring past, avoiding everyone's gaze, while Jungkook kept stealing glances at him, worry twisting in his stomach. Inside the dressing room, the chaos of stylists and makeup artists became a strange shield, a place to hide, but also a stage where every emotion could explode. When one stylist tried to dab foundation over Jimin's pale skin, he flinched, drawing startled looks from staff. Jungkook jumped to his defense, voice rising with unusual sharpness. "He needs a break. He's sick." The room stilled. The manager shot Jungkook a cold look. "He's an idol, not a child. He'll manage, unless you'd like to take his place." Jimin's eyes flickered with humiliation, anger, and a flicker of gratitude. "Don't," he mouthed. "Don't make it worse." But the day spiraled. At the interview, the host's questions were superficial, until suddenly one of them cut too close. "Jimin, fans noticed you looked unwell in your last live. Are you struggling with something?" Cameras rolled, the audience waited, and the other members exchanged worried glances. Jimin hesitated, the lights searing into his skull. "Just a cold. Nothing more," he managed, but his voice cracked, betraying the truth. The host pressed on. "Does it ever get too much? The pressure, the schedules, the lack of privacy?" Jungkook leaned forward, voice dangerously steady. "Sometimes people forget we're human." A ripple of surprise went through the crew. The host smiled, sensing drama. "Is there something you want to say, Jungkook?" Jungkook's eyes never left Jimin. People should stop pushing others past their limits for the sake of a good show. For a moment, the tension in the studio was electric, everyone caught between curiosity and discomfort. The manager looked ready to explode. Jimin's hands balled into fists beneath the table, his body vibrating with emotion, shame, gratitude, defiance. After the cameras stopped rolling, the confrontation erupted. In the hallway, the manager pulled Jungkook aside, voice barely controlled. "What the hell was that? You want to ruin our reputation. You want ARMY to think we're fragile." Jungkook shot back, voice raw. He could have collapsed. Would that make for better ratings? Jimin appeared, face flushed with fever and frustration. "Stop fighting about me. If I'm not strong enough, say it to my face. Don't use me as an excuse." Yoongi, tired of the shouting, threw up his hands. "If one more person yells, I'm walking out. This isn't helping anyone." Namjoon pulled them into a conference room, shutting the door against the chaos. He tried to reason, but his own exhaustion was obvious. "We can't keep tearing each other apart. If Jimin needs rest, he should get it. But if we keep fighting, we'll fall apart before the tour. Done." Jungkook glared at the manager. "Let him rest or I walk." A shocked silence. No one had ever heard Jungkook threaten that before. Even Jimin stared, eyes wide with disbelief. The manager's face twisted, anger and uncertainty battling. Finally, he spat, "Fine, tomorrow. But if there's backlash, if anyone asks why, he's on his own." Jimin bristled, opening his mouth to protest, but Jungkook cut him off, voice low and fierce. "I'll take the blame. I'll say I was the one who needed a break." Jimin's facade cracked. "Why are you doing this? Why do you keep throwing yourself in front of me?" Jungkook stepped closer, so close their breath mingled. "Because you do the same for me. Because I'm tired of pretending we're just teammates. Because I can't watch you destroy yourself to protect everyone else." Jimin's eyes glistened, his voice breaking. "You're not supposed to care this much." Jungkook's answer was almost a whisper, "Too late." Behind them, the door opened and Taehyung poked his head in, his expression uncharacteristically serious. "Guys, you need to see this." In the main hallway, a crowd of staff had gathered, phones out. A rumor had already begun to spread on social media, clips of the interview, shots of Jimin's pallor, speculation about BTS's future. The pressure wasn't just inside their group now, it was everywhere. Jimin looked at Jungkook, fear and defiance warring in his gaze. If the world turns on us, are you still going to stay? Jungkook squeezed his hand in front of everyone. Let them come, I'll be right here. That night, as the city thundered outside and new storms raged online, Jimin let himself believe, for once, that maybe he wasn't alone in the fire. Back at the hotel, tension simmered just beneath the surface, among the members, the staff, and within Jimin himself. He sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his phone in silence, reading the growing tide of messages online. Hashtags about his health were trending, with fans, worried speculation mixing with the usual swarm of rumors. Every comment felt like a fresh sting, each theory a twist of the knife. Jungkook paced the narrow space between the beds, running a hand through his hair, a bundle of nerves barely held together by stubborn will. A knock shattered the quiet. The manager entered without waiting for permission, face ashen, a stack of printed articles in hand. You two need to see this, it's out of control, he snapped, tossing the papers on the bed between them. Some staff saw you in the hallway, there's footage, someone caught you holding hands. Now everyone, asking if BTS is falling apart, if you're fighting, if you're something else. Jimin's breath caught. Jungkook stared at the headline. Jungkook risks it all, what is he hiding with Jimin? Dozens of screenshots, blurry and raw, filled the page. Some showed them arguing in the corridor, others frozen on Jungkook's fierce glare as he protected Jimin during the interview. Taehyung and Yoongi burst into the room behind the manager, their faces tight. Taehyung slammed the door and hissed, "You guys are everywhere right now. It's not just fans, it's HYBE. They want answers." Namjoon arrived last, calm on the surface but his jaw clenched with stress. "We need to figure this out before someone else does," he said, voice low. "Jimin, what do you want to say? You're at the center of this." Jimin's fingers trembled as he set his phone aside. "I never asked for any of this. I just wanted to get through one day without collapsing." He glared at the manager, then at the members, voice rising. "Is that too much? I didn't want to be the reason we trend for all the wrong reasons." Yoongi dropped onto the sofa, exhaling hard. "You're not the reason. They're looking for a crack, any crack, to make a story. This was going to happen sooner or later." Jungkook's voice cut through the debate. "Let them talk. I'll go live and tell them myself. I stayed up because Jimin was sick. I held his hand because he was scared. I'd do it again in front of the whole damn world." The manager's eyes flashed. "Are you insane? That'll make it worse. You think honesty is going to save us. They'll twist it, make it something else. You'll be the next scandal. Is that what you want?" Jimin's face hardened. At least it would be the truth, for once. Taehyung glanced at Jungkook, then Jimin, then back again, tension etched deep in his features. "If you go live, we all get dragged in. Is that what you want, Jimin? To put everyone under fire for your sake?" Jimin snapped, voice shaking. "I never asked anyone to protect me. I'm not a child." Jungkook's frustration spilled over. "Then stop acting like you have to carry everything alone. If we go down together. That's what this means. That's what it's always meant." Namjoon's voice trembled with rare anger. "Enough. We can't fight with the whole world watching. We can't fight with each other. We're running out of time before the company steps in. Someone has to say something real, before the silence eats us alive." Yoongi leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "We do it as a group, all of us. We don't let them divide us with half-truths and headlines." There was a heavy, silent agreement in the room, broken only by the distant blare of sirens outside and the buzz of another notification on Jimin's phone. He looked at Jungkook, desperate and raw. What if they never let this go? What if this is the thing that finally ruins everything? Jungkook moved to kneel in front of him, ignoring the audience of friends and staff. "Then, I'd rather stand with you and lose everything than pretend nothing happened and watch you break." Jimin's breath caught, tears threatening. "You really mean that?" "I do," Jungkook said, steady and clear. Taehyung swallowed hard, reaching out to squeeze Jimin's shoulder. We're all with you, even if it gets ugly. Yoongi grumbled, don't make me say it, but yeah. Namjoon closed his eyes. Taking a slow breath, let's go live together. The manager looked like he wanted to tear his hair out, but he didn't stop them. Cameras were set, notifications sent, and within minutes millions were watching. Jimin's voice shook as he started. There's been a lot of talk about me and Jungkook. Some of it's true, most of it is. But what matters is this. Last night I was sick. Jungkook stayed up all night because he was scared for me, and I'm grateful even if I don't always show it. We fight, we struggle, but we're family. We won't let rumors destroy what we built together. Jungkook took his hand, right there in front of the world, and the other members moved in closer. Taehyung's arm draped around Jimin's back, Yoongi offering a crooked, almost reluctant grin, Namjoon nodding with quiet pride. For the first time in days, Jimin breathed easily. The world was still out there, waiting with judgment and curiosity and all their own fears. But in that hotel room, crowded together under harsh lights, there was nothing left to hide. The fallout would come. The headlines would burn hotter for a while. But for tonight, no one was alone, not anymore. When the live stream ended, the room didn't empty. If anything, the atmosphere thickened, weighted with adrenaline and a strange, dizzy relief. Jimin slumped into the couch, his breath coming in shallow bursts, as if confessing the truth to millions had left him even more exposed. Jungkook hovered nearby, his face torn between pride and fear for what they'd just done. The other members lingered, silent for a moment, then all talking at once, voices tumbling over each other. Taehyung tried to joke, his voice unsteady. Well, if we're trending now, at least it's for something honest. Maybe next week they'll care about my new hair color instead. Yoongi rolled his eyes, but his smile was genuine. Yeah, or maybe they'll finally notice how hard you've been working on those dance moves. Oh, wait, that would mean you actually practice. Namjoon watched Jimin closely. How are you feeling? Not just about the fever, about everything. Jimin looked up, his eyes raw. I feel like I can finally breathe. Like maybe it's not all on me to hold everything together, but I'm scared too. What if we made everything worse? Jungkook shook his head, crossing the distance to sit beside him. Then we deal with it together. I'd rather face the truth and the consequences than lie another day. Suddenly the manager's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, his face pale. You need to see this. HQ wants a call, now they're not happy. He hesitated, looking at all of them. This could get bad. They're talking sponsors, contracts, reputation. Taehyung groaned. Of course, they never care until it's too late. Yoongi braced himself. Let's get it over with. The members gathered around the small conference table. The call connected. The screen filled with stern faces, executives, PR, legal. A chorus of accusations and questions exploded before anyone could speak. What were you thinking, going live without authorization? Do you have any idea what you've risked? What if the public takes this the wrong way? What about the sponsors? Namjoon tried to reason, voice calm but firm. We did what we had to do. There were rumors. The press was already circling. Hiding would have made us look guilty. One executive zeroed in on Jimin. Are you well enough to continue with promotions, or should we suspend you? Be honest. Jimin's jaw tightened. I'm getting better, I want to work, but I need you to trust us, not just as products but as people. A cold silence fell. Jungkook spoke up, defiant. If you suspend him for being human, then suspend me too. I won't perform without him. Yoongi's voice was sharp. That goes for all of us. Taehyung nodded, a rare seriousness in his eyes. You can't break us apart because the truth made you uncomfortable. There was a storm of hushed arguing on the executive end, lawyers and managers, PR and marketing strategists. Finally, the lead executive spoke, her tone clipped but controlled. We'll monitor the situation, but you've made a mess. Damage control will be your responsibility now. If this escalates, it's on you. The call ended, tension humming in the silence that followed. Namjoon sank into his chair. Well, that could have been worse, or better. Jimin's shoulders sagged with relief and exhaustion. "Thank you," he whispered, barely audible. Jungkook leaned forward, catching his gaze. "Don't thank me, I meant every word. I'm tired of hiding." Yoongi stood, stretching. "If we're taking heat for this, let's make it count. Let's rehearse harder. Show them we're not fragile." Taehyung nodded, bouncing back to his usual self. "Let's give them a reason to trend us for the right things." Night fell, but no one slept easily. News spread fast, clips of the live stream, analysis, fan reactions. There were new headlines, both supportive and vicious. Old scandals were dragged up, speculations about favoritism, about secret relationships, about the toll of idle life. Jimin scrolled through it all, a knot of anxiety tightening with every comment. But now Jungkook sat at his side, refusing to let him carry it alone. They spoke late into the night, voices hushed, words sometimes sharp and sometimes painfully gentle. "You don't regret it?" Jimin asked, voice trembling. Jungkook shook his head. "Not for a second. Maybe people will never get it, but I don't want to live for their approval." Jimin hesitated, searching Jungkook's eyes. "What if they turn on us? What if the company really does split us up?" Jungkook's answer was instant. "Then we fight, for ourselves, for each other. I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not." Jimin's facade crumbled again, all the exhaustion and fear and hope in his eyes. He reached out, fingers finding Jungkook. "Promise me you won't leave." Jungkook squeezed his hand. "Never." From the next room, they heard Taehyung's laughter, Yoongi's sarcastic mutter, and Namjoon's quiet reassurances to someone on the phone. For the first time in days, Jimin allowed himself to drift into sleep, not with the weight of the world on his chest, but with the warmth of someone finally, truly at his side. Outside, the storm of headlines raged on, but inside that small hotel room, for a few hours, there was only peace. The morning after their confession, the hotel suite felt nothing like a refuge. It was a battlefield, silent but seething, every sound amplified, every movement watched. News apps flashed new headlines every hour, some supportive, some poisonous, all dissecting every moment from the live stream. Jimin woke with his head heavy, eyes burning from sleeplessness, the faint sound of voices bleeding through the walls. He pulled himself up, wincing as a wave of dizziness hit. Jungkook was already awake, standing by the window, his back tense. Sunlight glinted off his hair but could not brighten the anxiety in his eyes. Jimin tried a soft greeting, voice hoarse. "You didn't sleep again." Jungkook shrugged, gaze fixed on the city below. Didn't want to miss anything. He turned, his concern almost palpable. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Jimin forced a smile. "Still a mess, but better." A sharp knock cut through the morning calm. This time it was not their manager but a HYBE representative, Mr. Choi, stern-faced, followed by a PR handler. They barely acknowledged the boys as they entered, speaking briskly. "We need to meet. Now. In the lounge, all of you." The group gathered, tension prickling through the air. Taehyung arrived first, arms crossed. Yoongi followed, face hard and unreadable. Namjoon's jaw was set, his leader mask slipping into place. When they sat, Mr. Choi wasted no time. "This situation is bigger than last night's live stream. Major sponsors are nervous. International media has picked it up. You're all under a microscope." Jimin sat straighter, face pale but defiant. "We told the truth. Is that a crime?" The PR handler leaned forward, icy. "You let emotions get ahead of professionalism. Now there are rumors about favoritism, about breakdowns, about the group fracturing. Sponsors want reassurance." Jungkook bristled. "So you want us to apologize for being honest?" Taehyung's voice was cold. "Maybe if you'd listened before, it wouldn't have come to this." Yoongi smirked, eyes glinting with challenge. "You want us to lie again, act like nothing happened. We're not kids anymore." Namjoon tried to mediate. "What do you want from us?" Mr. Choi hesitated, looking each of them in the eye. A press conference. Tonight, the company will provide talking points. You will say nothing about illness, nothing about internal conflict. We spin this as a simple misunderstanding. Jimin was tired, Jungkook was just being supportive, and the group is stronger than ever. No more talk about mental health or group pressure. Understood. Jimin felt the old panic claw at his chest, the suffocating grip of silence and shame. He looked at Jungkook, silently pleading for backup. Jungkook's jaw was set, eyes burning with defiance. If we say that, we're lying to everyone who believes in us. The PR handler snapped. Do you want to end your career over this? Jimin's breath shook. Maybe I do. Maybe I'm tired of pretending I'm not hurting. Maybe I'm tired of being your perfect puppet. Mr. Choi slammed a hand on the table, startling everyone. You will do this, or you risk everything. Not just for yourself, but for your brothers, your staff, everyone who depends on BTS. Are you that selfish? The accusation hung in the air like a curse. Jimin's lips trembled, words choking him. Taehyung shot up from his chair, voice trembling with anger. If you silence him, you silence all of us. Namjoon's voice was low, full of steel. We'll do the conference, but we will not lie. If you want a scandal, force our hand. If you want a family, let us speak our truth. There was a standoff, cold, silent, brutal. Mr. Choi and the handler left, slamming the door. For a long moment, no one spoke. Jungkook broke the silence first, reaching for Jimin's hand beneath the table. Whatever happens, we stick together. Yoongi looked at them all, the usual sarcasm gone. You want to do this, really? Tell the truth, even if it means losing everything. Jimin swallowed hard, fear and resolve mingling in his voice. I'd rather be broken and real than perfect and fake. Namjoon nodded, eyes glistening. We do it as one, no matter what. Hours later, backstage at the press conference, they stood in a tight circle, surrounded by the thrum of reporters, the flash of cameras, the gaze of the whole world. Jimin's hands shook, but Jungkook held them steady, Taehyung's warmth at his side, Yoongi and Namjoon behind. When the questions came sharp, prying, loaded with accusation, Jimin met them head-on. Yes, I was sick. Yes, Jungkook took care of me. Yes, we argue. Yes, we struggle. But we're a family, not a machine. And we're not ashamed to love and fight for each other. There was a ripple of stunned silence. Then more questions, more pointed, more aggressive. Jungkook spoke, fierce and clear. I'd rather protect my brothers and face the fallout than live in fear of it. We're not just idols, we're human. The press conference spiraled, support from some corners, outrage from others, a frenzy online. Sponsors called. The company panicked. But something had changed. The boys stood together on the storm's edge, unyielding. That night, as rain hammered the hotel windows, Jimin and Jungkook watched the chaos unfold, side by side, hearts racing and unbroken. For the first time, Jimin let himself hope the truth would be enough. The aftermath of the press conference was nothing like the catharsis anyone expected. Headlines turned more ferocious by the hour. BTS breaks silence. Jimin and Jungkook's explosive confession. Is this the beginning of the end? Some articles praised their honesty, hailing it as a new chapter of transparency in the idol world. Others spun conspiracy after conspiracy, dissecting every glance, every word. Sponsors issued statements, some supportive, others ominously non-committal. Social media was ablaze. Jimin barely had time to breathe before the next crisis erupted. HYBE's legal team called an emergency meeting in the hotel's conference room, every inch of the place feeling colder and more foreign than ever. The group sat together, but today even their bond felt exposed, raw, vulnerable, battered by the public storm. Ms. Han from legal wasted no time. You need to understand what's at stake. The sponsors who stayed silent after last night's press conference are threatening to withdraw if another incident occurs. This is no longer just about health or honesty. This is about millions in contracts, global partnerships. One more slip and the damage is permanent. Jungkook met her gaze head-on. So you want us to lie, to smile and wave and pretend nothing ever happened. We want you to be professional, Ms. Had said, her voice razor-sharp. No more private confessions on live streams, no more outbursts at press conferences. If you want to keep performing, you follow the company's script from now on. Jimin's hand trembled on the table. So you want us to erase everything we said? Pretend I wasn't sick. Pretend Jungkook didn't save me. Pretend we're not. He stopped, words choked off by emotion. Taehyung snapped, unable to hold back. Pretend we're robots, you mean? Yoongi, never one for drama, nonetheless slammed his fist on the table, startling the whole room. You want us to keep pretending? Then don't blame us if we fall apart on stage. Namjoon tried to find middle ground. We're not asking to make a scandal, but we can't be silent when someone is suffering. That's not what we promised each other. The legal team glared. What you promised each other is not in your contract, but what you say and do reflects on everyone tied to BTS. If you refuse, the board will consider indefinite suspension for all of you. The words hung in the air. Jimin looked down, his vision blurring. It was all happening too fast. Honesty twisted into scandal, loyalty punished, their whole future leveraged against a truth he never wanted to weaponize. He looked at Jungkook, who simply nodded, silent solidarity blazing in his eyes. As the meeting broke, staff whispered in corners. Rumors flared of cancelled appearances and lost endorsements. Jimin retreated to his room, the walls closing in, phone screen lighting up with messages he couldn't bear to open. Every word felt like poison, some army vowing to stand by him, others accusing him of destroying everything BTS had built. Taehyung barged in, the tension snapping as he slammed the door behind him. "Why are you just sitting here?" Taehyung demanded, his anger half concern, half despair. "You're just letting them walk all over you. Since when do you let anyone tell you who to be?" Jimin shook his head. "It's not just me, T. I can handle being hated, but I can't drag everyone else down with me." Taehyung's eyes blazed. "Don't you get it? None of us would be here without you, not a single one, so if you fall, we all fall. Stop acting like this is your cross alone." Before Jimin could answer, Jungkook appeared, drawn by the noise. His face was drawn, voice soft but edged with steel. "I'm done hiding. If they want to fire me, let them, but I'm not letting you get hurt alone." Jimin's composure cracked. "Why do you always do this? Why do you always put yourself in the fire for me?" Jungkook's reply was raw. "Because I owe you everything. Because you saved me 100 times and never asked for anything. Because I can't watch you break." Taehyung's voice dropped, low and urgent. "We have to show them, not just words, not just another press release. We need to prove we're stronger together no matter what." As night fell, the group gathered in Jimin's room, forming a tight, determined circle. Yoongi spoke first. "They want to scare us into silence. Fine, let's give them a show, the best performance of our lives, one they can't bury or twist." Namjoon's eyes gleamed with resolve. "Let's do something live but together. No company script, no rehearsed answers. Our music, our voices, our truth, the real us." Taehyung grinned, wild and hopeful. "Let's break the internet." Jungkook looked at Jimin, voice barely above a whisper. "Only if you're ready." Jimin wiped his eyes, trembling but nodded. "If I'm going down, I want it to be with you, all of you, as brothers, as BTS." Outside, the city buzzed with speculation and scandal. Inside, something even fiercer burned. Defiance, hope, the kind of love that refused to die quietly. And as they began to plan, heartbeats steadying in unison, Jimin realized for the first time in days that maybe the world wasn't ending. Maybe, just maybe, it was the start of something true. From the moment the plan was set, there was no turning back. Tension thrummed through the suite as Jimin, Jungkook, Taehyung, Yoongi and Namjoon rehearsed long past midnight, voices hoarse, nerves raw. The staff noticed the change immediately. The boys were defiant, purposeful, ignoring calls from managers, brushing past company PR, fueled by something urgent and uncontainable. Jimin barely spoke, saving every ounce of energy for what was coming. He felt the weight of thousands of eyes, fans, haters, executives, his own family, bearing down on him, every breath a gamble. Jungkook hovered at his side, sometimes fierce, sometimes gentle, always present. The others closed ranks. No more whispers, no more division. If one was going to fall, they would all fall together. The livestream announcement was simple. No sponsors, no networks, just a timer and a promise. BTS, live and unfiltered. Within minutes, millions tuned in. The comments exploded, hope and dread and curiosity blending into a storm of anticipation. The five sat on a battered sofa, faces stripped of makeup, voices unvarnished. Jimin's hand shook in his lap, but Jungkook's palm settled over his, grounding him. Yoongi started, his tone sharp as a blade. "You want the truth? Here it is. We're tired, we're angry, we're scared sometimes, but most of all, we're together." Taehyung broke in, a glimmer of mischief and hurt in his eyes. "You want scandal. There's nothing more scandalous than loving each other enough to fight, to bleed, to mess up and come back anyway." Namjoon leaned forward, commanding. "We know some of you are worried, some are disappointed, some are furious, but for years we've told you to love yourselves. Now we're asking you to let us love ourselves too. Let us be human." A pause, then Jimin's voice, trembling but clear. "Last week I thought I couldn't go on. My body gave up before my heart did. I was terrified not of dying but of disappointing you. Jungkook stayed up all night for me. The others fought for me when I wouldn't fight for myself. If that's weakness, then let me be weak. If that's failure, then I failed with my whole heart." Jungkook's gaze didn't leave Jimin's face. "I'd do it again. I'd do it every night if I had to. I don't care about rules if the cost is you." The comments section exploded. A war zone, some declaring their undying loyalty, others spewing betrayal and outrage, a few begging them to just sing, just dance, just shut up. The screen scrolled too fast to follow. Suddenly, a staff member burst in, wild-eyed. "Turn it off. HQ just called, the board is watching, the sponsors are furious, you have to stop now." Yoongi stood, unyielding. "They can watch, let them see what they made." Namjoon's voice never wavered. "We're not hiding anymore." Taehyung flashed a grin at the camera, tears glittering in his eyes. "Let the world decide, but this," he looked at his brothers, "is forever." Jimin closed his eyes, feeling every shiver of panic and freedom ripple through him. He reached for the mic, almost dropping it. "We've always sung about hope. I'm not giving up on it now, no matter who tries to silence us." And then, with no intro, they sang. No backtrack, no choreography, just five voices trembling and strong, raw and defiant. Jimin's tone cracked but soared. Jungkook's harmonies wrapped around him. Taehyung's baritone trembling with emotion, Yoongi and Namjoon's raps punctuating every word like a manifesto. The internet went nuclear, the server crashed, the staff tried to drag them off camera, but their song bled through, unstoppable, uncontainable. The world watched the barriers crumble in real time. Afterwards, chaos reigned. Their manager shouted in the corridor. The PR team threatened legal action. Some sponsors called with ultimatums, others with unconditional support. Fans trended every possible hashtag, from BTS family to let them rest to Jimin you are enough. The group retreated to their suite, exhausted and breathless. Jimin's hands wouldn't stop shaking, so Jungkook pulled him in, holding him tight, ignoring the chaos outside their door. Yoongi sat on the floor, head in his hands, silent for once. Taehyung collapsed backwards, laughing and crying at the same time. Namjoon stared at the ceiling, finally letting a smile break through the tension. Jimin's phone vibrated endlessly with messages, some from family, some from old friends, some from strangers. One from his mother simply read, "I love you no matter what." He looked at his brothers, every bruise and scar and tear visible in the harsh hotel lights. He realized that sometimes the bravest thing was not to fight alone, but to let yourself be carried, to fall together. For the first time, Jimin slept with the door unlocked, the room filled with the sound of breathing and the certainty that whatever the world threw at them next, they would face it as one. The next morning, the world outside seemed even louder. Messages poured in from every direction, labels, family, media, fans. Some staff wouldn't meet their eyes in the hall. Others offered quick, nervous smiles, sympathy edged with fear. The company set up an emergency meeting, insisting on a private suite and demanding that no one, not even their closest managers, say a word to the press. Jimin sat on the edge of his bed, hands pressed tight to his temples, the voices from his phone echoing in his head. "You're selfish, you're brave, you're destroying everything, you saved my life." Jungkook found him there, sunlight spilling across the sheets, casting his shadow over Jimin's hunched figure. "Did you sleep?" Jungkook asked softly, but the answer was clear in the dark circles beneath Jimin's eyes. Jimin shook his head, a bitter laugh in his throat. "I stopped reading the comments. Doesn't matter what I do, someone's going to hate me." Jungkook knelt in front of him, determination burning through the worry. "You're not alone in this. We promised, remember. We go through it together." Jimin looked at him, vulnerability stark in his gaze. "I know, but I can't help feeling like everything's spiraling out of control." Before Jungkook could reply, their door slammed open. Namjoon marched in, face thunderous, a phone clutched white-knuckled in his hand. "The board is losing it. They want a formal apology, not just to fans but to sponsors, and they want it now." Yoongi and Taehyung appeared behind him, the former's eyes narrow with rage, the latter's expression unreadable. Taehyung broke the silence. "They don't care if it's true, they just want the mess cleaned up. They're threatening to suspend us indefinitely. They'll say it. Health reasons." Jimin stared, cold dread pooling in his stomach. "So they want me to disappear quietly. That's it." Namjoon's voice was strangled. "Or all of us. If we don't give them what they want, we're finished." Jungkook rose to his feet, fists balled. "No, I'm not apologizing for loving my friend, for caring, for being there when he was sick. If they want to end us for that, let them." Yoongi's temper finally boiled over. "What the hell did they expect? We're human. Let's see them survive what we have. No one tells me to beg for forgiveness for being loyal." Taehyung stepped between them, voice shaking. "It's easy for you to say, Hyung, but what about everyone else? Our families, the staff? What if the whole machine comes crashing down because we refuse?" Namjoon pinched the bridge of his nose. "We have to be smart. This isn't just about us. It's everyone who depends on BTS to survive. I hate it, but—" Jimin cut him off, voice trembling with a cocktail of fear and resolve. "If I apologize, it means I was wrong to be honest. That all of this, the truth, the love, the struggle, was a mistake. I won't do it." Silence crashed down, heavy and suffocating. Jungkook reached for Jimin's hand, not caring that the others watched. "We decide together, whatever happens." The meeting with the board was brutal. Executives joined from different countries, faces hard and unforgiving on the giant screens. One by one, they demanded explanations, apologies, assurances that it would never happen again. Jimin stared at his hands, heart pounding, until an older executive glared directly at him. "If you're not prepared to take responsibility for the damage you've caused, you will never set foot on a stage again." Jimin's voice, though quiet, rang with certainty. "If I have to apologize for being sick, for being loved, I don't want the stage." The backlash was instant. The room erupted. Voices layered over each other, angry, desperate, threatening. Through it all, Jungkook and the others stood behind Jimin, silent and unmoving. When it became clear the boys wouldn't bend, the executives called for a break, storming off-screen. Afterwards, the members retreated to their suite, tension running so high it felt like glass. Taehyung paced the floor, muttering curses. Namjoon stared out the window, his shoulders tight. Yoongi scribbled in a notebook, knuckles white. Jimin leaned against Jungkook, who pressed a cool cloth to his forehead, hands shaking from adrenaline. Suddenly, a new message appeared on Jimin's phone, his father. For years, their relationship had been strained, distant, burdened by expectation and pride. Jimin's heart hammered as he opened it, reading the words aloud, voice trembling. "Don't apologize for being yourself. I'm proud of you. I was wrong to ever make you doubt that. Come home when you can. You're always my son." Tears slipped down Jimin's cheeks, his body racked with silent sobs. For a long time, no one spoke. Jungkook drew him close, whispering, "You're enough. You always were." That night the boys huddled together, no barriers left between them. They spoke quietly, honestly, sharing secrets and regrets, their voices raw. Taehyung confessed his terror of losing the group. Yoongi admitted he was tired of being strong for everyone else. Namjoon apologized for every time he put the team above individual pain. Jungkook confessed he'd been afraid of failing Jimin more than anyone else. And Jimin, through his tears, finally forgave himself. When dawn came, nothing was fixed. The world outside still raged, but inside, for the first time, Jimin felt lighter. Whatever happened next, they would face it as brothers, not idols, not products, but as themselves. And for Jimin, that was worth everything. The suite was still dark when Jimin awoke, his pillow damp with sweat and the aftershocks of his father's message lingering like warmth in his chest. For a rare moment, the city beyond the curtains was silent, no screaming headlines, no threats or promises lighting up his phone. But peace didn't last long. At 7 a.m., the sharp ring of a landline split the silence. It was the company again, this time summoning them to a hotel ballroom, media already camped outside, security lining the halls like prison guards. Jimin's hands trembled as he buttoned his shirt, flashes of anxiety twisting in his stomach. Jungkook appeared at his side, gently straightening Jimin's collar, eyes searching his face. "You sure you want to do this?" he whispered. Jimin managed a shaky smile. "I can't run forever, not from them, not from myself." Down the hall, Taehyung was arguing with Yoongi about whether to say anything to the press. Yoongi was adamant, no apologies, no fake smiles. Namjoon stood apart, silent, shoulders stiff with responsibility. The van ride downstairs was quiet but electric, their hands all brushing against each other, their breaths synchronized with nerves and stubbornness. The ballroom was chaos. Cameras everywhere, lights so bright they hurt Jimin's eyes, a row of executives lurking just out of frame, watching every move. The moderator began, her smile too wide to be real. "BTS, the world wants to know, what happened?" Namjoon fielded the first question, measured and careful. "There's no one reason. We're tired, yes, but we're also here because we believe honesty matters. We're a family first. That means loving each other even when it's hard, even when it's messy." A reporter turned to Jimin, voice cutting. "Isn't it irresponsible to bring private health matters to the public, to let personal issues threaten the group's reputation?" Jimin held her gaze. "What's irresponsible is asking us to lie about who we are, to pretend pain doesn't exist. I was sick. Jungkook stayed with me. If that makes us less perfect, so be it." Jungkook jumped in, his tone fiery. "No one in this room has the right to demand our suffering just to sell a perfect image. We're not machines." Another question, sharper. "There are rumors you're considering leaving the group, Jimin. Can you confirm or deny?" Taehyung's voice sliced through the tension. "None of us are leaving, and if you keep trying to push us apart, you'll lose us all." The questions came faster, more aggressive, some supportive, most not. Yoongi's patience snapped. "Ask yourselves why this matters so much. Why is it a scandal for a friend to care for another? Why do you want us to break?" The moderator struggled to regain control, but the crowd was now a living thing, hungry for spectacle. Then, from the back of the room, a voice rang out, Jimin's mother, somehow slipping past security. "If loving your brother is wrong, then all of Korea is guilty. Leave my son alone." The room froze. Cameras swung to catch her face, and suddenly the narrative shifted. Jimin stared at his mother, stunned, a flush of embarrassment and gratitude warring on his cheeks. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then someone began to clap. Another joined in. The room fractured, some reporters standing in solidarity, others turning away in frustration. The executives in the wings looked murderous. The moderator had lost all semblance of control. Jungkook reached for Jimin's hand, squeezing it in plain view of the cameras. "We are not ashamed," he declared, voice ringing with conviction. The press conference ended in chaos. The boys whisked out a side door by security, their ears ringing with the shouts of journalists and the cheers of a handful of loyal fans. Back in the van, everyone was silent, shocked, shaken, but lighter somehow. Yoongi broke the silence first. "Your mom's a legend, Jimin. Remind me never to cross her." Taehyung laughed, real and loud, wiping tears from his eyes. "I wish my mom would crash a press conference for me." Namjoon sighed, slumping back. "Well, if this is the end, at least we went out fighting." Jimin looked around at his brothers, every line of exhaustion and relief etched in their faces. "I don't think it's the end," he said softly. "Not if we keep holding on." That evening, the company issued a bland, carefully worded statement. The sponsors, shaken but unwilling to lose BTS entirely, backtracked on their threats. The public, stunned by Jimin's mother and the group's united front, began to shift, slowly, unevenly, but unmistakably. Messages of support flooded in, drowning out the worst of the hate. Alone with Jungkook after midnight, Jimin finally let himself break. He wept hot, silent tears until he couldn't breathe. Jungkook held him through it all, rocking him gently, whispering truths that Jimin's heart finally believed. "You're loved, you're enough, you're not alone." When sleep finally came, it was deep and dreamless. For the first time in weeks, Jimin didn't fear what the morning would bring. He only knew whatever came, they would face it together, and that, at last, was enough. Daylight spilled through the curtains, illuminating the remnants of a night that had changed everything. Jimin woke in Jungkook's arms, their breathing synchronized in the hush before the world demanded them again. Messages pinged on every device, staff updates, fan letters, news alerts. But for a few precious moments, Jimin lay still, unwilling to let go of the warmth and safety. The peace shattered as Namjoon knocked, urgency sharpening his voice. "Company emergency call, 10 minutes. They're threatening to fly out, you need to be ready." Jimin dragged himself up, heart pounding, mind racing through the fallout from yesterday's explosive press conference. Taehyung and Yoongi appeared, the latter clutching his phone like a weapon, eyes narrowed with defiance. Taehyung slung an arm around Jimin's shoulders. "No matter what they say, we stick together. Don't forget that." In the conference suite, executives' faces flickered across a massive screen, their expressions colder than ever. Ms. Han led the attack. That display was a disgrace. The board has lost faith. Sponsors want a guarantee there will be no more emotional outbursts or family interference. "You will be making a new statement, this time our way. If you refuse, we will halt all promotions and you will face legal action for breach of contract." Yoongi laughed bitterly. Legal action for loving each other. Taehyung's jaw tightened, for telling the truth. Namjoon tried diplomacy, his words measured but iron-willed. "You can't silence us forever. You can't unwrite what happened. People saw what's real. That's why they love us." Jungkook glared directly into the camera. "If you want to fire us, do it. But I'll never apologize for being there when Jimin needed me." The tension escalated. Executives volleyed threats, personal lawsuits, public shaming, blacklisting from the industry. Jimin sat silent, his knuckles white, each word from the board a blow to his heart. Finally, he spoke, voice shaking but resolute. "You say you care about us, about BTS, but all you care about is profit. I am not a machine. I won't sign your apology." An executive's voice grew shrill. "Without our protection, your careers are over." Namjoon slammed his palm on the table. "Then we start over. We have each other. We have army. That's enough." Suddenly, Yoongi pulled out his phone, holding it up. "We're live," he announced. Shocked gasps erupted from both the boardroom and the room around him. "Let everyone see who you really are. Go ahead, threaten us again." The executive sputtered, scrambling to mute the call, but it was too late. Millions of fans tuned in, watching the confrontation unfold in real time. No filters, no PR spin. The chat flooded with support, outrage, cries for justice. Ms. Hand's mask cracked. "You're finished." Yoongi smirked. "We're just getting started." The call cut out. The boys stared at each other, breathless. For a moment, terror hung in the air. But then, laughter broke out, wild and desperate, as if they'd survived a storm only to find themselves still standing. A staff member banged on the door, eyes wide. "You just made history. Twitter's down, the board, in chaos. You're trending in every country." Jimin's hands shook. Adrenaline surging and crashing all at once. Jungkook took his face in both hands. "You did it. We did it." Taehyung flopped onto the couch, grinning through tears. "If we're going down, at least it's with fireworks." Namjoon finally let himself smile. "We'll rebuild, on our own terms." As night fell, the suite filled with the sound of phones buzzing, news anchors shouting, fans singing their songs in the streets. HYBE's grip was broken, at least for now. The fear lingered. What would tomorrow bring? Could they survive outside the walls of the system that made them? Would Army stand by them when the dust settled? Jimin curled into Jungkook's side, exhausted and shaking. "Are you scared?" he whispered. Jungkook pressed a kiss to his forehead. "Terrified, but I'd rather be scared with you than safe alone." That night, for the first time, Jimin didn't feel like a product, a headline, a pawn. He felt human, flawed, frightened, loved. Whatever came next, he would face it as himself. And with his brothers, he believed he could face anything. The city was buzzing. News vans lined the street outside the hotel. Fans camped on sidewalks holding handmade banners and posters, some shouting words of love, some desperate, some just wanting to see for themselves if the rumors were true. The hotel lobby was chaos. Security everywhere, reporters flashing credentials, managers muttering urgently into their phones. It felt like the world was closing in from every side. But inside the suite, the boys sat in a tense, tight circle, holding fast to what little piece they could carve out. Jimin stared out the window at the growing crowd, his heart pounding with a wild mix of fear and hope. Jungkook watched him closely, unwilling to let a single sign of distress go unnoticed. Namjoon was in full leader mode, phone glued to his ear, arguing in 2 languages with anyone who would listen. Taehyung and Yoongi flanked Jimin on either side, silent but steady, drawing a protective line that no one could cross. The door burst open. This time it was HYBE's CEO himself, flanked by lawyers, PR, and 2 unfamiliar men in expensive suits. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "You've embarrassed this company. You've embarrassed me. There are contracts, reputations, legacies at stake. I'm here to fix this, one way or another." Jimin's skin crawled at the coldness in his voice. Jungkook rose to his feet, eyes blazing. "What are you going to do? Force us to sign something else? Lie again?" The CEO glared at him. "You have one chance. Issue a written apology to the company, to the sponsors, to the fans. Deny everything that's been said. Swear on your careers it will never happen again. Or you're done, all of you." Namjoon's patience snapped. "We're not children. We're not toys you can put back in a box. We told the truth. We won't apologize for that." The suits exchanged glances, murmured something in English too fast for Jimin to follow. One leaned in, his tone icy. "If you refuse, we'll take you to court. You'll lose everything. Your music, your brand, your homes, your family." Yoongi's hands balled into fists. "Do it. Try. See if we care." Jimin's breath was shallow, his chest tight with fear, but when he looked around at his brothers, their eyes fierce, their jaws set, he knew he wasn't alone. For once, he wasn't the weak link. He was part of something unbreakable. Taehyung spoke up, voice trembling but clear. "You can't erase what's already happened. You can't make us unlove each other." The CEO rounded on him. "You think love will save you? It won't. The industry eats its own. If you walk away from this, you'll be blacklisted forever. There will be no comeback, no solo careers, nothing. Jungkook stepped closer to Jimin, voice unwavering. We'll start again. If we have to sing in the streets, we will, but we'll do it together. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside. The chanting from the street grew louder, rising in waves. BTS, BTS, BTS. Security tried to hold back the crowd, but more and more fans were joining, voices ringing out in every language. Someone started singing Spring Day, and the sound floated up to the window, a chorus of thousands refusing to let them go. Jimin pressed a hand to the glass, tears streaming down his face. You hear that? He whispered. That's not something you can buy or threaten or silence. The CEO looked out the window, jaw clenched. This isn't over, he spat, storming out with his entourage, doors slamming behind them. The suite was silent except for the distant echo of the fans. Yoongi sank back into the couch, rubbing his eyes. Well, I guess that's that. Namjoon finally let out a long, shaky breath. We need to talk to them, all of them, not just on live stream, for real. The boys agreed. Hours later, as dusk fell and the city lights flickered on, they slipped out the back of the hotel, disguised in hoodies and masks, flanked by only 2 trusted bodyguards. Outside, the crowd surged but parted, awestruck. Jimin's heart pounded as he and his brothers stepped onto a makeshift stage a block away, lit by the glow of thousands of phones. Namjoon spoke first, his voice carrying across the night. We're here because you gave us the strength to be honest. We're not going anywhere, not as long as you believe in us. Taehyung added, voice cracking, we're scared, but we're not giving up. Yoongi grinned, lifting a mic. You wanted the truth, here it is. We're not perfect, but we're yours. Jungkook pulled Jimin close, speaking softly but fiercely. I almost lost him. I won't let that happen again. The fans answered with a roar that shook the street, voices rising in love, in defiance, in hope. Jimin took the mic last, every fear and scar and hope shining in his eyes. Thank you for not letting us disappear, for letting us be human, for loving us even when we're at our worst. They sang together, voices raw but strong, filling the city with music and memory. The moment felt endless, pure, honest, unbreakable. And as Jimin looked at his brothers, at the crowd that would not be silenced, he knew that no matter what came next, they would never be alone again. As night faded into gray morning, Jimin awoke to the relentless sound of his phone, calls from HYBE's legal team, messages from family, news alerts piling up by the minute. His hands trembled as he scrolled through headlines. BTS defies management, fans take to streets. Jimin's family joins the fight. Will HYBE survive this? It felt as if the entire world was on fire and somehow every flame traced back to him. Still, in the quiet warmth of the suite, surrounded by his brothers, he felt less alone than ever. The first blow of the day landed early, an email with the subject contractual breach final warning. The company demanded another meeting, this time in person, with the CEO, lawyers, and several board members. The tone was icy, no more negotiation, no more room for mistakes. Yoongi read the message aloud, voice dripping with sarcasm. They want a demonstration of obedience, like we're soldiers, not artists. Namjoon's eyes darkened. If they want to see defiance, we'll give them a show they'll never forget. Jungkook squeezed Jimin's shoulder. You sure you're ready for this? It won't be pretty. Jimin met his gaze, the last of his old fear crumbling. I don't care. I'm tired of hiding. In the hotel conference room, the tension was suffocating. Suits filled the far side of the table. On the other, the 5 of them sat like accused criminals, shoulders touching, silent in their unity. The CEO launched in immediately. Your insubordination is costing us millions. This is your last chance. If you wish to salvage your careers, apologize, recant, and commit to silence, or you're finished. Taehyung couldn't contain his anger. We've already lost everything that matters if we lose ourselves. The PR chief tried a softer approach, almost pleading. You're loved, you're idols to millions. Isn't that worth protecting? Jimin's reply was almost gentle. I can't protect a lie anymore. The room exploded, voices raised, threats made, contracts waved like swords. The legal counsel warned, if you refuse, we'll freeze your accounts. We'll bar you from performing anywhere in Korea. Think about your families. Namjoon leaned forward, steady as ever. Our families already chose us. Our fans did too. Maybe it's time you realized you're the only ones left out. A hush settled as everyone waited for Jimin. He stood, feeling every pair of eyes burning into him. You want to end us? Go ahead. But remember that you made us who we are, brothers, fighters, survivors. Whatever happens now, we walk out together. With that, he turned to leave. One by one, Jungkook, Yoongi, Taehyung, and Namjoon rose and followed. The boardroom doors slammed behind them. Back in their suite, exhaustion hit all at once. Taehyung raged, packing the floor, flinging pillows and curses. Yoongi sat quietly, hands shaking for the first time, face pale. Namjoon slumped against the wall, lost in thought. Jungkook clung to Jimin as if physical contact alone could keep the storm at bay. The silence was shattered by a new sound, a growing, thunderous chorus outside. Army had returned, thicker than before, their voices raised in defiance and support. Jimin, we love you, echoed through the night, joined by spontaneous renditions of BTS songs, waves of purple lightsticks glittering like stars. Taehyung opened the window, breath catching. Look at them, we're not alone, not ever. Jimin leaned out, tears slipping down his cheeks. Down below, a fan held up a sign, we believe in you. The sight gave him strength, a reminder of all they'd risked and all they'd gained. Jungkook pressed close, whispering, this is our new beginning. Suddenly, Jimin's phone buzzed, this time a message from his older brother. Don't let them take your voice. Whatever happens, come home, we'll always be waiting. Jimin turned to his brothers, eyes shining. No more running, no more silence. Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together. For us, for Army, for the truth. The group nodded, every bond between them stronger for the scars they now shared. As they braced for whatever hell the company would unleash next, Jimin finally understood. Their power was never in contracts, sponsors, or stage lights. It was in the choice to stand as one, even if it meant standing alone against the world. Morning came without mercy. Jimin woke to the sound of helicopters slicing through the air above the hotel, their low thunder vibrating through the walls. He didn't need to look outside to know what it meant. The situation had crossed a line. This was no longer just a scandal. It was a siege. Jungkook was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed with his phone pressed to his ear, voice tight. Say it again, he demanded, slowly. He listened, his knuckles whitening, then ended the call without a goodbye. They froze the accounts, he said quietly. All of them, personal and group. They pulled our access to the studio, the dancers, everything. For a moment, no one spoke. The words hung in the air like smoke. Yoongi let out a sharp laugh that held no humor. So this is how they do it. Starve you until you kneel. Taehyung's face went pale. My parents just called. Reporters are outside their house. Namjoon closed his eyes, jaw clenched so hard it looked painful. They're trying to break us separately. Jimin felt something cold slide down his spine, not fear but clarity. He stood slowly, every movement deliberate. Then we don't separate, not now, not ever. A knock exploded against the door. Security, managers, legal. The hallway erupted with voices, urgency bleeding into panic. When the door finally opened, HYBE's crisis director stormed in, eyes wild. You've gone too far, she snapped. You're in violation of multiple clauses. Effective immediately, BTS activities are suspended. You are not to contact media, fans, or... No, Jimin said. The room stilled. She turned toward him, incredulous. Excuse me. I said no, Jimin repeated, voice steady, dangerous in its calm. You don't get to erase us. You don't get to lock us away and hope we disappear." Jungkook stepped forward, shoulder brushing Jimin. "If you're suspending BTS, then do it in public. Say why. Say you punished us for choosing honesty." The director scoffed. "You think the public will stay on your side when we release internal reports, when we say you're unstable, unprofessional?" Yoongi's eyes darkened. "You do that and you confirm everything we've been saying." Namjoon leaned in, voice low and lethal. "And don't forget, we're not alone anymore. Every move you make is being watched." As if summoned by his words, a shout rose from outside, then another, then hundreds. "Army!" The sound poured through the windows, chants, singing, raw and unstoppable. Someone had started Spring Day again, and this time the entire street joined in. Purple light flooded the morning like a sunrise. The director's face drained of color. Jimin walked to the window and pulled the curtain aside. What he saw stole his breath. Thousands of fans filled the streets, holding signs in dozens of languages. "Let them speak. Human first. We stay." Tears blurred his vision. "They're not leaving," Taehyung whispered. Jimin turned back to the room, heart pounding, voice breaking but unyielding. "You can freeze accounts. You can threaten us. But you can't unsing our songs. You can't make them forget us." The director's voice shook now. "If you walk out that door, there's no going back." Jungkook took Jimin's hand, fingers interlacing without hesitation. "We already walked out." They moved together, past stunned staff, past shouted warnings, down the hallway where everything had once been controlled and silent. Security tried to stop them. Fans screamed when they appeared at the entrance, the sound so loud it felt like it cracked the sky. Jimin stepped forward, no mic, no script, just his voice. "Please don't be afraid for us," he called out, tears streaming freely now. "We're scared too, but we're not breaking, not today." The crowd roared. Jungkook raised his voice next. "They taught us to love ourselves, now we're doing it with you." Yoongi smirked through tears. "Guess we're unemployed." Laughter rippled through the crowd, mixed with sobs. Namjoon's voice followed, steady and proud. "This isn't the end, it's a choice." And Taehyung, voice trembling with emotion, finished. "If this is what freedom costs, then it's worth it." Sirens wailed in the distance. Cameras flashed. Somewhere behind them, contracts burned and bridges collapsed. But in front of them was something far stronger. As Jimin stood there, hand locked with Jungkook, surrounded by his brothers and a sea of unwavering faces, he realized something that made his chest ache with truth. They had already won. Not because they were untouchable, but because they had chosen each other. And no one could ever take that away. News of BTS's rebellion swept across the globe like wildfire. By midday, international headlines were dissecting every move, every word, every flash of emotion caught by fan cams and news crews. Online, the divide was ferocious. Some called them heroes, others traitors. Some predicted the end of an era, others the start of a new one. Jimin watched it all unfold on his phone, exhaustion etched into every line of his face, adrenaline giving way to a bone-deep ache. The suite was a war zone of anxious energy and shattered routines. Yoongi fielded urgent calls from lawyers and accountants, voice icy and defiant. Taehyung alternated between packing and weeping openly, laughter colliding with tears. Namjoon scribbled frantically in a battered notebook, preparing statements, phone numbers, backup plans. Jungkook stuck close to Jimin, fiercely protective, his calm starting to crack as the day dragged on. A message came from the company: "You are all summoned now." The group was herded by stone-faced security through the labyrinth of the hotel, past staff who watched them with a mix of fear and awe, out a back door into armored vans. Reporters screamed their names as they passed. Army filled the sidewalks, singing, some reaching for their hands, others crying. The world had never felt so close or so impossibly far. They were delivered to HYBE headquarters, led into a conference room where the air was thick with dread. The board sat at the far end, their expressions carved from stone. The CEO, eyes bloodshot and voice ragged from shouting, didn't bother with pretense. You have one chance to save yourselves. Take the apology. Deny your statements, or you're done. Jimin stared at the long table, heart racing, mind empty. He saw his brothers beside him, Yoongi stone-faced, Namjoon burning with resolve, Taehyung trembling but refusing to break, Jungkook with fury in his eyes. Yoongi spoke first, his tone glacial. You can have our signatures, you can have our money, you can't have our souls. A board member slammed his fist down. Your souls are our property, you signed the contract. Namjoon met his gaze, voice low but clear. Then we break the contract, tear it up. You can't force us to live a lie. Lawyers threatened court orders, jail, blacklists, the destruction of everything they'd built. You think army can protect you from all this? Another board member sneered. Jungkook barked a harsh laugh. No one can protect us forever, but at least we'll be free. The CEO pointed at Jimin. You started this. Are you proud? Is this what you want your family to see? Jimin's throat burned. I want my family to see who I really am, even if it's broken, even if it hurts. Taehyung stepped forward, eyes flashing with tears. Let us go, or finish the job. But don't expect us to crawl. The confrontation erupted into chaos. Lawyers shouted, managers begged, threats volleyed back and forth. The group stood their ground, refusing every offer, every plea for a carefully crafted lie. The CEO's face twisted with rage and resignation. Then you leave with nothing. No songs, no name. You are nothing. Namjoon smiled for the first time all day, small and sad. We started as nothing. We can do it again. Security was called. The boys were marched from the building. No goodbyes, no last words. They were thrown out the back, into a gray alley behind HYBE's glass walls, the world's most famous group now officially stripped of everything but each other. But as they stepped out, a wall of sound greeted them. Thousands of army pressed against barricades, singing louder than ever, waving signs, chanting their names. Some staff members from inside the building slipped out to join them, risking their jobs for a glimpse, for a chance to say thank you. Jimin stood frozen, tears spilling freely. Jungkook grabbed his hand, anchoring him as the others pressed close. Yoongi laughed through his tears, shaking his head. Look at us, homeless, broke, legendary. Taehyung hugged Jimin tight. I'd choose this again, 100 times. Namjoon, still trembling, addressed the crowd. We are no longer BTS by law, but in our hearts with you, we are forever. Cameras captured the moment. The world watched as the group bowed deeply to their fans, to the sky, to each other. A makeshift microphone appeared. Someone no one could remember who began singing, and together the 5 voices rose, broken but fierce, echoing through the chaos and the fear and the glory. That night in a cramped rented apartment, the boys huddled together. Yoongi cooked ramen over a single burner. Taehyung played guitar on the floor. Jungkook cleaned Jimin's scraped palms from where he'd clung to the barricades. Namjoon wrote new words, a new promise, on the back of a takeout menu. For the first time, the laughter came easy, filling the room like a promise. They had lost everything, money, safety, fame, even their name. But Jimin felt lighter, held up by a love that could never be trademarked or silenced. Tomorrow, the world would be waiting again, hungry for drama or forgiveness or failure. But tonight they were free. And for Jimin, that was everything. The sun barely rose before the next crisis hit. Their battered apartment, barely furnished and echoing with newness, became a bunker, phones vibrating off countertops, army support flooding social feeds, and beneath it all, a growing drumbeat of threats and legal notices from HYBE. Jimin sat curled in the corner of the living room, knees tucked to his chest, every alert on his phone another reminder of what they'd lost and what they still might lose. The ramen bowls from the night before were stacked by the sink, untouched. The air smelled of burnt soy sauce and old tears. Yoongi was already at work, scribbling lyrics furiously, headphones clamped over his ears to block out the world. Namjoon paced by the window, phone glued to his ear, voice low and urgent as he negotiated with attorneys and reporters. Taehyung, dark circles under his eyes, scrolled through thousands of fan messages, tears running down his face, his thumb never stopping. Jungkook moved from room to room, quietly tidying up, checking on each member, his hands trembling whenever he thought no one was looking. A loud knock shook the door, everyone froze. Jungkook was the first to react, stepping between the door and Jimin. "Who is it?" he called, voice steady. A woman's voice answered, muffled but urgent. "Lawyer, we need to talk now." Namjoon unlocked the door, letting in a young woman with a badge and armfuls of folders. She closed the door, face pale but resolute. "I'm Minji. I'm here because the board filed a lawsuit this morning. They want an injunction, freeze all your assets, bar you from performing, seize royalties, and, if possible, criminal charges for breach of contract and inciting a riot." Yoongi scoffed, taking off his headphones. "A riot? That was a vigil, they know it." Minji nodded grimly. "Doesn't matter. They're desperate and the charges will stick if the press runs with it. You're going to need statements, evidence, witnesses. This will get ugly." Jimin's heart dropped. "They want to destroy us completely." Minji looked him in the eye. "They want to make an example of you, to remind everyone what happens when you defy the system." Namjoon ran a hand through his hair, frustration twisting his features. "Can we fight this?" Minji nodded. "Yes, but you'll need to keep telling the truth. Every time they try to bury you, you answer in the open. Don't hide, don't run. Let army see everything." Taehyung threw his phone onto the couch. "Let them see it all then. I'm tired of being ashamed." Yoongi started scribbling again. "Then we give them new music, our story, no label, no filter." Jungkook knelt in front of Jimin, searching his eyes. "Are you ready? It's going to get worse before it gets better." Jimin reached out, gripping Jungkook's hands tightly. "I don't care anymore. As long as I have you, I can face anything." The day became a blur of interviews, live broadcasts, hastily recorded messages. Namjoon sat with news anchors, explaining what happened in careful, passionate detail. Yoongi played a new verse on Instagram Live, daring HYBE to take him down for it. Taehyung filmed a tearful message to the fans, voice cracking as he begged them not to blame themselves, not to turn their anger on each other. Jungkook and Jimin sat shoulder to shoulder, recording a live Q&A where Jimin, shaky but unyielding, talked about fear, illness, betrayal, and the cost of telling the truth. The comments were a flood of love, horror, and outrage. Some begged them to return to HYBE, others screamed at the company, still others warned that the world would never forgive them for leaving. In the midst of the chaos, an unexpected ally appeared. A former idol, driven out years ago by similar scandals, went public with her own story. She named names. She described cover-ups, manipulation, abuse. She called BTS brave, an army, millions strong, rallied behind her. The headlines began to turn. Instead of traitors, BTS became survivors. Instead of runaways, they were revolutionaries. Late that night, the boys gathered in the tiny living room, exhaustion painting every face, but a new fire in their eyes. Jimin rested his head on Jungkook's shoulder, tears drying on his cheeks. "We started this for survival," Yoongi said, voice rough. "But now we're fighting for everyone who can't." Namjoon nodded, holding up a new contract he'd just written by hand. "Our music, our story, our name. No one owns us anymore." Taehyung wiped his eyes, his laughter fragile but real. "Let's make them remember who we are." Jungkook kissed Jimin's hair, together. They raised their hands, clasped together, and in that cramped, defiant apartment, Jimin felt hope bloom again, raw, reckless, unstoppable. The war was far from over, but tonight they stood at the front line together, unafraid and finally free.